How do we periodize? In 1817, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive three-volume work, A History of British India. In this, he has divided Indian history into three periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. This periodization came to be widely accepted. Can you think of any problem with this way of looking at Indian history? Why do we try and divide Indian history into different periods? We do so that we can have the detailed understanding of the stories that are related to Indian history, and also they are related to ancient, medieval, and modern periods of Indian history. They reflect our ideas about the past. They show how we see the significance of the change from one period to the next. James Mill thought that all Asian societies were at a lower level of civilization than Europe. He says that Europeans are more educated, more civilized than India. So here we can see he was trying to discourage our Indian culture by saying that Indians are uneducated. We Europeans are more educated, we are more powerful. According to his telling of history, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim ruler ruled the country. During that time, it was totally based on religious intolerance. That means discrimination. Caste system was there. That means caste taboos and superstitious practices dominant in social life. So it was all about superstitious. British rule, Mill felt, could civilize India. To do this, it was necessary to introduce European manner, arts, institution, and laws in India. Mill, in fact, suggested that the British could conquer all the territories in India to ensure the enlightenment and happiness of the Indian people, for India was not capable of progress without British rule. In this idea of history, British rule represented all the forces of progress and civilization. The period before British rule was one of the darkness. Can such a conceptions be accepted today? In any cases, can we refer to any period of history as Hindu or Muslim? Did not a variety of faiths exist simultaneously in these periods? Why should we characterize an age only through the religion of the rulers of the India? To do so is to suggest that the lives and the practice of others do not really matters. We should also remember that even rulers in ancient time did not all share the same faith. Moving away from British classification, Indian historians have usually divided our Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. If we talk about ancient, that is Prachin Yug, medieval, Madhyakalin Yug, modern, Adunik Yug. This division too has its problem. It's a periodization that is borrowed from West, where modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity, science, reason, democracy, liberty, and equality. Medieval was a term used to describe a society where these features of modern society did not exist. What is colonial? Colonial means colonies of the Britisher. Alright. So India was a colonial for the British. In this book, you will read about the way the British came to conquer the country and establish their rule, subjugating local Nawabs and Rajas. Subjugating means conquering. You will see how they established control over the economy and society and collected revenue to meet all their expenses, brought the goods they wanted at lower price, produced crops they needed for exports, and you will understand the changes that came about as a consequences. You will also come to know about the changes British rule brought about in values and taste, customs and practices. When the subjugation of one country by another lead to these kinds of political, economical, social and cultural changes referred to colonization. Once again, I will explain you the concept of colonization. Listen it very carefully. When the subjugation of one country, that means conquering. Subjugation talks about conquering, capturing. When one country conquer over the other country that leads to many changes in the country. Changes like political, economical, social, cultural changes. And this is what colonization is. For example, see here, Britishers conquered our country. Because of their conquering, what happened? They brought their culture, tradition, literature, everything. So because of their bringing of culture and tradition, that affected our Indian culture. Because of that affection, what happened here? Everything changed in our country, and that is what colonization is. How do we know? What sources do historians use in writing about the last 250 years of Indian history? One important source is the official records of British administration. The British believed that the act of writing was important. Every institution's plan, policy decision, agreement, investigation had to be clearly written up. Once this was done, things could be properly studied and debated. This conviction produced an administrative culture of memos, notes, and reports. The British also felt that all important documents and letters needed to be carefully preserved. So they set up record rooms attached to all administrative institutions. That is, we can see each and every rooms are attached to the British offices. The village tehsildars, the commissioner's office, the provincial secretariats, the collectorate, the law court all had their record rooms, and in these record rooms these documents information were stored. Specialized institutions like archives and museums were also established to preserve important records. What is archive? Archive is a room in which all the records, all the documents are preserved. Letters and memos that moved from one branch of the administration to another in the early years of 19th century can still be read in the archives. You can also study the notes and reports that district officials prepared or the instructions and directives they were sent by officials at the top to provincial administrators. In the early years of 19th century, these documents were carefully copied out and beautifully written by calligraphists, that is, by those who specialized in the art of beautiful writing. By the middle of 19th century, with the spread of painting, multiple copies of these records were printed as proceedings of each government department. Surveys become important. The practice of surveying also became common under the colonial administration. The British believed that a country has to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country. In the village, revenue surveys were conducted. The effort was to know the topography, the soil quality, the flora, the fauna, the local histories, and the cropping pattern, all the facts seen as necessary to know how to administer the region. From the end of 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years. This prepared detailed records of the number of people in all the provinces of India, noting information on caste, religions and occupation. There were many other surveys, that is botanical survey, zoological and finally forest surveys were taken. So we can say that Britishers took a detailed survey regarding India. Why they have taken this detailed survey? To administer India, they must know what all things are there in our country. Now let's understand the last topic of this chapter. Till now we read about what historians do, how they write history, what are the importance of the official documents, what are the systematic approach that the British took for proper administration. Now we will study about what official records do not tell. always remember, official records tell us about the official thoughts. That is what the British government and officials wanted. These records do not tell about that how the common people of India felt and what they wanted. To get this information, we have to look somewhere else. We do not find them in official records. So where can we find them? It can be found in the personal diary of people, accounts of pilgrimage and travelers, autobiographies of important personalities. All the documents, books, and letters were written by those who were literate. Literate means educated one. So there were some other people who were illiterate. We come to know about them through their strikes, hartal, and demonstration that was carried out by them against Britisher. So here we end with this chapter. Thank you.